Hey, it's Biddy Penny. Welcome to my channel. Today, you guys, we are doing painted papers and we're painting scraps. So, I went through my stash and grabbed all kinds of scraps. I'm going to have two sessions. This is a two-part, I guess, session for you guys. We're going to do painted papers in this video without a gel plate, and we're going to do painted papers in a separate video with a gel plate. So, I am showing you the scraps that I'm talking about. Scrap lace, scrap cardstock, scrap anything. Just any papers that I found in my stash that either had some coloring on them. They're all different sizes. Some of them I had just cut pieces off, stamped on. I have these print offs when I'm cleaning my print heads. I had this piece that I had embossed on, both dry embossing and heat embossing. I mean, just total scraps. I have my scrap watercolor. I even have, when I was grabbing my scrap lace, I also grabbed, like it's hard to see, but some tulle and those Texas tamale bags. I have printables, paper bags. I even grabbed these pieces that are from paper pads. I saved those, and these I am going to gel print. So some of this stuff I'm going to work with in this video, but not all of it. I'm just showing you what I'll be using across both videos. Okay, so I am a 5x7 card maker. And so I always have these cutoffs and bulk, just so many of them. They are so great if you want to stamp off a bunch of sentiments or small stamps, but I'm also going to just use a whole bunch for painted papers. I gathered some supplies. I gathered ink and watercolor and acrylic paints, all different colors. So these are the different paints that we can use. I grabbed a whole bunch of stencils. I mean, I just went to my stencil box and just peeled the top layer off, and this is what came out. So this is from PM Artist Studios. I'm mainly going to use these for gel printing, but yeah, I have just a little bit of everything. Okay, we're not gel printing here, all right? You can use a brayer if you want, but I'm not even going to use the brayer in this video. We are going to use more basic supplies and just have some fun with painted papers. The first thing I decided to do was ink smushing, which is where you just smush your ink pad. It's great if it's water reactive ink. And I work on a glass mat always, and just spritz it with water and you smush the ink onto your paper. It's really that easy. I chose these colors because I thought of sunsets, and I was able, out of that one little smush from each ink pad and spritzing it with water, I think I was able to get like 5 strips or so. So now one thing I'll say is different papers react differently to these techniques, and that's really thick cardstock. You know, it's from my cardstock bases. So, you know, they'll really soak up all of that ink and water. I don't even have any warping on that one. Now this one, I'm just doing a little bit differently. I don't feel the need to cover the entire thing with ink. This one I only got 2 of them and not saturated all the way across. But yeah, I don't feel the need to cover them entirely with ink because you can stamp on them. You can come back in and use distress crayons, pastels, pencils, like colored pencils, markers. So you can fill in with other interesting details and materials. Here I've got my Kuretake granulating watercolors, and I just was going to do a little coloring. Now, I didn't get any amazing results here, but that was because I really had things watered down and I didn't pick up pigment out of the pans. I was just kind of playing. But I do like this color, and I did get a little bit of granulation, but not very much. And then I decided just to kind of smear this out. I'm going to use it. Don't waste it. I'm using some old cut off book pages and just dropping the watercolor on there, getting color on the page. That's the goal here. And so I'm just smearing it on. You wouldn't need these watercolors. You could do this technique with absolutely any watercolor at all. And you probably won't even notice a big difference. You can pick your favorite colors. You can pick colors that you think you'll be using. In this video, you could tell I chose a whole lot of bright colors for my painted papers. I really like bright colors. And, you know, we're in summer, and summer is a time for brightness. So let's just fully embrace it. At least I'm going to. And I did lay those on top of each other so that I could get both sides painted. And it was very subtle. Another thing that I've been doing for years and loving, I didn't mix this one well enough, is to drag my acrylic paint on with a hard plastic card. It could be any kind of old gift card, or which, you know, whatever, just old room key, whatever. You can use these to drag the acrylic ink across the page, and it makes your ink go, or your acrylic paint go pretty far. You're able to get it as thin and transparent as you like, or you can lay it down thicker and get it more opaque. And you can mix in different colors. I didn't get really great results with that purple. That was a metallic purple, and I just don't think it was mixed all that well, obviously, when I started. So, you know, that is one thing to be aware of, is the opacity of your paints that you're working with. If the purple and the pink had the same opacity, more like they do in this, then you'll get the varied colors. So if you had all 3 colors or 4 colors with a strong opacity, then you could really get a more dramatic results. Okay, so those are done. And I just keep grabbing scraps and painting scraps. Now, I think that collage papers are just really fun to play with, painted papers for collage. I think they're really fun. I love using painted papers in my collages and, you know, my junk journals and my card making. I'll use them on anything. And I had recently just pretty much run out of painted papers. So I sat down one afternoon and I did a huge stack. Now, I think it's great to change up your colors, vary your colors, but here I just wanted brights. But if you're going to sit down one afternoon, as I did, you might think about using a variety of palettes. So once my papers are mostly dry, which is ideal, is letting them dry, then I'm going to go back in with stencils, and I'm just going to kind of stencil on some interest. Now, with these, I wanted to show you what stenciling with paint can be like. It's not ideal. It works great on a gel plate, but just by itself, it depends on the stencil too. This one's highly detailed, extremely detailed. And so I end up getting more smeared, not as detailed results. You can do it. It's totally possible, but it may not come out the way it would if you used an ink per se. So here I'm just experimenting and playing. That's the other great thing about painted papers is you can play. You really can just kind of experiment and play, and you'll probably find out as you experiment and play which of your paints are really opaque and which ones are transparent. This is a process that could help you figure that out as you go. Now I'm using Distress Oxides, which are a mixture of dye and pigment ink, so they really set on top of the paper. This is my first time using a Dollar Tree stencil, and whatever this is made out of is pretty incredible. It makes the ink just go on forever and ever. I never had to re-dip my brush into my ink, and I was able to stencil all of these scraps plus more. So yeah, I don't know what this is, but it's some sort of plastic, obviously, but it's really slick, and it just made my ink stretch so far. So that was a nice surprise. I would definitely pick these up again if I saw ones that I wanted or didn't have something like it already in my stash. Bye. So I did the front and the back and got myself some letters saying bye to the hubby. Not to you guys. So yeah, I did the front and back. Obviously, you don't need to do the front and back for collage, but I may put one of those in a journal or do something else with it. So I did the front and back. You don't have to do the fronts and backs. Here I have this Dina Wakley stencil, and I decided to kind of do a Warhol effect and do, 4 different colors. And then what I did with these is when I pulled the stencil up, I really couldn't tell that it was 4 lovely ladies. So I did end up using my Micron pen, and I went around them with more detail. I like this because it looks like graffiti to me. It looks like street art, and I like that. So I really end up liking this piece a lot, and I had to make 2 of them. I tried to make 2 of each of the things that I really liked because I'm making Happy Mail for a friend, and I'm planning on sending some of these out. And so I wanted, one of these for me and one for Happy Mail. So yeah, I feel like the Micron pen, just tracing around the stencil, really helped those. Okay, we can use stamps, of course. These are 3 that I got recently from Unity Stamp Co. And I absolutely love their kind of mixed media stamps. They have quite a few. These happen to be the 3 that I really fell in love with. And I'm just going to grab a variety of different stamps from these 3 packs. And I have like a grid and kind of a net. There's just really great backgrounds, as well as like flowers and splatter and different things. You can use any stamps you have in your stash. But yeah, so these are the pages that we painted with the acrylic ink. Ink, especially like this pigment ink, this is a VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It will stamp beautifully on top of acrylic paint. And once it's dry, it'll dry permanent. It just depends on your ink. You'll have to experiment and play around because, acrylic paint is basically like plastic. So some inks may not adhere to it as much as you like. You just let it dry. And archival inks are always great. I don't ever use StazOn because I don't like how much it stains my supplies, but StazOn would also be a good option if that's what you do like. So yeah, just a little bit of detail here. It's not a lot, it's just a kind of a background. And so once I have that laid down, then I want to go in and I'm going to stamp out some splatters. Now, obviously, you could just water down a little bit of paint or ink and splatter on these too, but I have a splatter stamp. So I decided to use my splatter stamp and stamp around. It was just less messy. I was already getting very messy on this day. But there we go, splatter. Here I'm going to use some distress crayons. I have a toilet paper roll. Play with your brushes, whatever paint brushes you have in your collection, because if you play with them, you will find different shapes and different cool markings that you can make just with a paintbrush. And here I made circles. I squeezed the tube and got some oval shapes. Again, I'm just doing kind of a background. And then I bent the toilet paper roll tube into like a heart shape. I didn't get any real strong hearts here, but it was shaped into a heart. And when I stamped it with foam behind it, I could actually see a perfect heart. So, you might put foam behind your paper and maybe a sheet of paper on top of the foam so it doesn't get all stained. You can use distress crayons for lots of things. Here I just played with them through my stencil. Now they will build up, it'll get really thick, and it will eat up your distress crayon. But I just wanted to show you it is possible. Here I'm just using my finger tool and some paint and getting some stenciling in. This is a Prima stencil. And so, yeah, you can stencil this. I'm stenciling on top of a watercolored book page that we did and that I did that background with. And you may look at this, I know I look at this and go, wow, that is not spectacular. There, I decided to blend out the distress crayon. And then I went in with my another distress crayon or two and just kind of scribbled all around. So I'm not looking for this paper to be spectacular in this state. I am just creating because I know that I'll end up tearing this paper. I'm going to end up tearing this off in strips, bits and pieces. I'm not going to use the whole thing as like a background for a project. I'm going to come in and I'm going to tear this up and I'm going to use bits and pieces. Here I decided to stamp a cat because why not? And I stamped him on both sides. Just in case I did want to put this in a book, most certainly could. I came back in with my distress crayon and made a little border around my page. You can go over your distress crayons with a water pen. I also sometimes just use my finger and smooth it out a little bit, take off any excess pigment, and that's it. I mean, it'll just dry permanent. Pretty, well, semi-permanent. It is water reactive. But here are the results from this play session. Yes, I have very inky fingers. I'm okay with that. I have a few just different and fun and wacky papers that I can play with when I'm making art. It's nothing too serious. It's a whole lot of fun. What I'm showing you today was really just a very simple version of how to do painted papers. You can use anything you have in your stash, and make it as complicated or as simple as you want. And when you start tearing these apart and using bits and pieces, they do make for really fun collage and mixed media projects. And then in part 2, I will come back and tackle this pile with my gel plate. So I hope you guys enjoy these. Have some fun painting your papers, and I'll see you next time. Bye.